tonight. Our Spotlight on Long Island segment brings us live in studio with our guest. His name, George Demos, and a return visit, and we welcome him immensely. George, welcome to the program once again.
Jay, wonderful to be here, and thank you for having me.
By popular demand, we have George back in place. And, of course, Mr. Demos getting ready for a pretty big week, including culminating at the end of the week with a big debate right here in the studios of LI News Radio. The only debate, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you will hear. And we are very fortunate to have it right here on our airwaves. George, you're looking forward to that?
Absolutely, and thank you to Long Island News Radio for hosting that debate. As you know, we put out the first challenge for the debate back in February. It's so important the people of Long Island, the people of Suffolk County have an opportunity to contrast the candidates, to hear what they have to say, and to hear their positions on the issues. So I hope we'll have a good, robust debate, and hopefully it'll stay on the issues. I'm very looking forward to this, and I think the people of Long Island deserve it.
Last time I had seen you, I'm going to say probably was, I'm going to guess, maybe eight weeks ago. I'm going to say maybe 2 months ago. Is that about right? How is George Demos, how has the demeanor of George Demos changed in those 8 weeks? You certainly have made the rounds. You're kind of getting a feel for the public vying for this first congressional seat. You know, it's a big deal. It's one of the most heralded, elections right here in the state, the right to face off against Tim Bishop in November. But how has the demeanor of George Demos changed?
Well, we're getting a great response across Long Island, and we're getting more confident and more of a better response because people across Long Island are fed up. They're fed up with the politicians in Albany. They're fed up with the politicians in Washington who are ruining this country. And you need someone who's going to stand up and fight on behalf of the people. So every night, Jay, I'm going door to door. I meet people all across the district, and they're saying in one unmistakable voice that they want change. They want someone who's going to stand up and not be a pawn of the party bosses.
You're sensing, because you've made the rounds, you've been at the train stations, everywhere else, you're sensing a lot of frustration out there?
Absolutely. People are frustrated, they're fed up, and they want someone who's going to stand up for them. They're tired of the politicians, the party bosses who tell them one thing, then they go to Washington in the case of Tim Bishop and they do something else, or in the case of my opponent in Albany. So it's very important that you have someone who can stand up with clarity and stand up with conviction and go after the party bosses and say, look, we want a candidate who represents the people, and I will be that candidate.
Let's say you're at a train station. I've seen many out there having taken the train for so many years, and you have a chance now, if you're, just a regular, person, or taking the train, hard-working guy, maybe heading into the city, making that 2.5-hour daily round-trip trek, as I did many years ago. But they see a George Demos, they see a chance. They see a possible congressman here in the first district. What has been the overall? What has been the overall setting that one says to you, George? Is there one topic that people say? Is it property taxes? Is it just jobs in general? Where do people kind of locate their frustrations to you?
People are fed up with Obamacare, and they're fed up with the fact that you had politicians who told them they would be against Obamacare, and then they went down to Washington and voted for it. And Obamacare touches on all issues, all facets of the economy, because people aren't hiring, people are losing their jobs, and they can't get health insurance. And the biggest provider on Long Island, Stony Brook University, had announced that it would not take any of the Obamacare programs. They may have since altered that. But the fact is, people are saying that every time they come up to me. And by the way, Jay, when you're at the train station, it's important to make sure when it's 2 minutes till train time, you get out of the way because people want to make that train.
They're making the run. They got the newspaper. You don't want to get any of that hot coffee spilled on you as well. George Demos here. Big day Friday, of course, the big debate, vying for that spot in the 1st Congressional District. I want to just backtrack a little bit, give a little background to the folks out there. You served as a United States Security and Exchange Commission enforcement attorney. You did that for about 6 or 7 years, and you specialized in prosecuting corporate fraudsters, so to speak. You were also involved in that whole Bernie Madoff deal, right?
Absolutely. I was part of the 2009 prosecution team. It was a big team, and I was privileged to play a small role in that most important case. Actually worked with the FBI out of Mr. Madoff's offices on 3rd Avenue for about 3 months, reconstructing that fraud and trying to put together how those guys got away with it. So fighting corporate fraud and fighting the people who stole from our retirement accounts is very important to me. And it tells you about the kind of character I'll bring to Washington. I'll be relentless, I'll be a fighter, and I'll fight for us.
A lot of Ponzi schemers out there. We report on them pretty much on a weekly basis. Does it ever surprise you, having been in that field for so many years, and you see all this popping up again, the amount of fraudsters that are out there?
human nature means there'll always be fraudsters. The problem is that government thinks that it can always stamp it out, and they keep passing more and more laws that hurt the honest businessman, the honest person who's trying to make it in the business. So you need a government that's nimble and agile enough to be able to respond to the frauds, and more importantly, Jay, to think about the frauds before they happen. That's the problem with our government. We need to have a proactive government that can figure out and prevent fraud before it happens. And by proactive, I don't mean bigger. I mean leaner and meaner and smarter.
So when did the notion come across George Demos, you know what, I think I might want to get into politics, kind of help the people out here on Long Island. When did it first come upon George Demos that you wanted to have kind of that route in your career?
Public service has always been important to me, Jay. Back in law school, I worked at the Suffolk DA's office in Riverhead, and then I went to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, but I always wanted to be able to have a bigger platform to be able to help more people, and that's why the next natural step for me was to run for Congress. As you know, we ran last time, came a little bit short, and this time we're going to make it, and this time we're going to be able to represent the people of Long Island and be able to get rid of the liberal Democratic congressman that's been there for 12 years. I don't care about party politics in the sense that you've been there for 12 years, that's too long, it's time for you to go.
You mentioned last time to now, and a lot of people maybe have learned from some of their maybe past mistakes or whatever. They kind of have now a clearer road of what it might take to maybe make that leap. Have you learned something since the last time?
Absolutely. The most important thing you can do if you're running for office is meet and connect directly with voters. That means being right here on the radio. That means going to train stations. That means going door to door. Don't waste your time talking to the party insiders in the back room, smoke-filled rooms. That's not going to get you votes.
We've got George Demos here for another couple of minutes. We'll take a quick break, George. Time for our traffic and weather. Nancy standing by on our roads at 8:45.
Still trouble for westbound LIE travel, and now some problems on the eastbound side, too. This report brought to you by Foundation for a Better Life. On the westbound side, we have the jam-up of stop-and-go traffic, exit 63, right through to 61 at Patchogue Colebrook Road. An accident off on the shoulder, but we're really packed in as we had a jitney car accident. As they take care of that particular incident, we also see that eastbound LIE is packed in from Nassau right through to 110 at exit 49. Right lane's blocked with a dump truck accident, and it looks like it's going to be there for a bit. Wellwood Avenue delays are northbound in towards Straight Path due to a crash there. Same over on westbound Wisconsin Highway at Wireless Road. And another crash, this time Vets Highway westbound at New Highway. So we've got our tangle-ups. Be prepared. Our LIRR is on or close to schedule. Winston Churchill's words stirred his country in the face of defeat. Today they inspire us to reach for our own victories. Commitment. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com. I'm Nancy Remy on 103.9 LI News Radio.
LI News time. We are at 8:46 in Selden right now. 57 degrees. We are on the rise. Clear skies. Lots of sunshine. John Weatherby standing by with our forecast for this Monday.
Hi, good morning. All sunshine today. Northwest wind, high of 68. Partly cloudy, 50 for tonight. Mostly sunny, 74 tomorrow. Wednesday, 30% chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorm. Meteorologist John Weatherby on 103.9 LI News Radio.
Do you have a loved one who has a difficult time expressing their wants and needs? Can they speak clearly and be understood by teachers, friends, and family? Have they been diagnosed with a voice disturbance, tongue thrust, or stuttering? Is your child a picky eater and limited to a few foods? Then the licensed speech pathologist at the Suffolk Center for Speech and Myofunctional Therapy can help. They participate with most major health insurance companies and have 7 locations throughout Nassau and Suffolk. One call could make a difference for the rest of your child's life. See more on the web at lispeechandmyo.com. That's lispeechandmyo.com.
Hi, this is Joe Curio, the Cigar Czar, owner of Flame Fine Cigars and Smoking Lounge in Port Jefferson. Listen to me every Friday night at 9 following the Mark Levin Show right here on 103.9 LI News Radio.
Kilmeade and Friends. Brian Kilmeade here. Join me Monday through Friday right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Talking about news, politics, high-profile guests, and more right here on my hometown station, 103.9 LI News Radio.
LI News time. We are at 8:48. It is a big week. It culminates with the big debate right here at the studios of LI News Radio at MacArthur Airport. Should be a heck of a day, and George Demos is with me this morning. And George getting ready. You know, since I've seen you, you've had a couple of notables who have said, you know what, I'm in his corner. We're talking about Rudy Giuliani and George Pataki.
Absolutely, Jay. That's a huge boost to our campaign that America's mayor himself, Rudy Giuliani, endorsed our campaign. He doesn't normally get involved in primaries, but in this situation, he came in and is involved, and that's a tremendous boost. People trust Rudy Giuliani when he says that someone's the right candidate, they're the right candidate. And obviously the former governor of New York, George Pataki, who endorsed us right off the bat when we first announced. Those are two endorsements I didn't have last time when I ran, but this time we're ready, we're the candidate, and we're the ones who can finally defeat Tim Bishop, and I'm so proud those two distinguished gentlemen are on our side.
What is it like for Rudy Giuliani, who's, the much heralded Rudy Giuliani? I mean, just loved here in New York, and then all of a sudden he's in the Demos corner. How'd that make you feel when it first came out?
Oh, it's overwhelming, it's tremendous, and you saw last week during the opening of the museum dedication at Ground Zero, and you see Rudy Giuliani get up there, and you realize this is a man that's respected, not just in New York, not just in the United States, but around the world, and it's a tremendous honor. It literally brings goosebumps to you when you see that he stood there and standing with you, and it also brings an obligation for me to work harder and to make sure that we win this and make sure we run a proper and good campaign that articulates conservative values and makes him proud. So we have to win this, and we're doing well, and I'm so proud that Mayor Giuliani's endorsed our campaign.
George Demos has certainly, when you look back on George's career, if you read his bio and stuff, certainly dedicated his career to prosecuting corporate criminals on Wall Street. Now, of course, making the leap into politics. You're actually the grandson of immigrants, correct?
Absolutely. My grandfather came over here from Greece, and he didn't have a penny in his pocket. And I know it's going to shock you, Jay, but he ended up working at a Greek diner. And I'm Greek-American, and he started working at that diner 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he ended up owning that diner. But that's the American story. That's my family's story. That's probably your story, the story of people who come here with nothing more than a desire to work hard and a desire to achieve. And that's what's being lost in America today. Too many people are looking for things for free and trying to get things the easy way. And that's what I'm afraid is happening in Washington, a culture of people demanding things for free and not wanting to work for them. So my family's history is important to me, and I'm the grandson of immigrants, and I never forget that.
Speaking of Greek diners, I had a Greek diner that I used to frequent all the time, the Nautilus Diner in Massapequa Park. I lived there for a couple of years, but it was right on Merrick Road. Great food. What can I tell you? I had to set that in there. But pretty much, you go on. Do you kind of think about, your grandfather and with all the hard work and dedication, all the dreams, knowing that anything is possible here in America? Does that always kind of in the back of your mind as you kind of make this leap into politics right now?
Absolutely, because my family's story is no different than most families. The idea that our forefathers and our ancestors and our grandfathers and our parents worked so hard to give us these opportunities, and what are we going to do with it now in America? And we go back to our constitutional founding. Our forefathers set forth a constitution and liberty. And the fact of the matter is now that we're sliding towards European-style socialism, and that's not what our grandparents and parents came to America for. They came here for the opportunity to work, and they came here for freedom, and they came here for the idea that if you work hard, anything is possible. And that's what I'm afraid is being lost in Washington and in Albany.
I know you had mentioned health care. That is priority one on the Demos agenda. But what about, everybody will say, well, listen, we need jobs here. We have to lower taxes. We have to improve the economy. George Demos, what about Social Security? People are very concerned here on Long Island about the future of some of our elderly people, the future of some of our children as they graduate from school and look towards jobs, maybe finding a permanent home. What would be like the top 2 or 3, besides the health care issue, that George Demos would have in mind as far as fighting in Washington?
Well, taxes, Jay, is the most important thing. People are being forced to leave Long Island. People can't live here anymore. And they're moving to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida. And that's because the property taxes are too high. New York is, according to a recent study, the 48th most friendly place for tax environment. And just in the last couple of years, the top marginal income tax rate in New York State was raised. Property taxes are through the roof. So once you create a culture where it says you're just here to be taxed, then people aren't going to bring their businesses here, and there won't be jobs here. So unemployment, high taxes, and that budget deficit in Washington, which is crippling and ruining our country, is one of the most important things that we have to fight for.
Many people have cited regarding just the economy in general about the policy maybe of increasing government jobs down in the nation's capital. You're losing a lot of the private sector jobs here on the island. A lot of people just say, you know what, you can't have that here. You have to you have to somehow move the needle in this direction.
Yeah, well, Washington, D.C. is the one town in America that's been spared from this great recession, and that's because they open the coffers, they take our money, and they hire people in Washington. The fact of the matter is government jobs don't work. We were told by Barack Obama and Tim Bishop that we would have the shovel-ready stimulus jobs, and then Barack Obama started laughing and said, well, I guess shovel-ready wasn't as ready as we thought. It never works that government's going to be the answer to our problems. It's going to come from private enterprise, free markets, all of the great inventions in America, whether it's the internet, cell phones, all of these things that happen in Silicon Valley. They started in garages. They started where people took an opportunity, had an idea, and they tried something. And most of the time these things fail. But unless you have the opportunity to try and succeed, and you know you'll be rewarded for that, new technologies and new markets and new innovations won't happen. So we have to get back to those core principles that made America great. And Long Island is hurting. Everywhere I go, people are hurting. And they can't make it. They're making ends meet. And they think, well, you must be making $80,000 a year. That's a lot of money. On Long Island, that's not going to cut it. So we have to work hard to restore that balance and make sure Washington gets off our backs.
Do a lot of senior citizens come up to you and say, Mr. Demos, if elected, what are you going to do for me? I mean, listen, I've struggled my whole life. We're maintaining here on the island. I'm being forced possibly to leave. I mean, certainly that's got to be gut-wrenching, and I'm sure a lot of people come up to you of that age group.
Absolutely. I go door to door, and many senior citizens are the ones who are home. And you see that they've downsized their homes. They're in smaller apartments. Many of them are moving to Florida, and they can't make it. And obviously the most important thing is we say, look, you've earned the benefits of Social Security. We have to make sure that you've earned those, you're entitled to those, or we're not going to take those away, because that's what the Democrats always do. They try to scare seniors. But we have to look to the next generation and say, do you want your children and grandchildren to live here on Long Island? We grew up on Long Island, and Long Island was always strong and proud. You know, we're the ones who invented the lunar module that went to the moon. Long Island was always the center of innovation and technology, and now we've lost that. So we have to get that back, and senior citizens understand that more than anyone else.
George Demos, he is vying for a spot in the 1st Congressional District. The first leg of it kicks off on Friday. The big debate between he and State Senator Lee Zeldin. The only place, by the way, you will hear these two go over all the issues you want to hear. It all starts 5 o'clock right here at the airport. And for the big primary, of course, June the 24th, for the right to face off against Tim Bishop in November. George, always a pleasure to have you.
Jay, thank you so much. Looking forward to the debate on Friday.
We'll see you on Friday. By the way, don't be late, okay?
I won't be.
Okay. LA News time. We're at 8:55. Let's go right to Nancy on the roads.